Luis and Denise Lopez. It's so great to be recording this with you.
Nice. Nice to see you. We miss you guys.
Yeah, we do.
It's been way too long.
Way too long.
Well, I mean, way too long. And you guys are out. And you guys are out there on your ranch with cattle and space and air.
We can social distance big time here. Come visit.
So we're having this conversation because you guys are joining the Pastoral Council in this sort of brand new role, which is advisory capacity, and we're excited about that. So in order for people that might not know who you are to like get familiar with you, I thought we'd talk. So let's start from the very beginning. Tell me a little bit about your story. Like I know it, but nobody else, like not everybody knows it. So tell me a little bit yeah, your backstory, like where you guys are from, how'd you guys get together, like that stuff.
Sure. So I'm from Brownsville, Texas. Denise is
I'm from San Benito, Texas, and we live in Harlingen, Texas, better known as the Rio Grande Valley. So just look at a map.
So Brownsville's at the very tip, right next to Matamoros, and San Benito's maybe
30 minutes from there.
Yeah. So we actually met in junior college, and we've known each other 40 years.
Forever, pretty much. We'll have our 32nd anniversary, married anniversary in March. Right. And but we dated in junior college for a year, and went our own way. He went to Dallas and I went to Corpus, lived our own lives for about 5 years, always kind of keeping in contact. Anytime people were home or
we were
home.
stalking each other.
Yeah, right.
This was before Facebook, so it was a lot harder.
There was no cell phones, there was no face, there was nothing. Yes, we're that old. And so after that, about 5 years, I was teaching. I got my degree in Corpus. I was teaching. Luis was not
in Denton,
not yet finished, and we decided we got reconnected, and gosh,
at that time when I was in Denton, I was working on my master's in clinical psych, and we reconnected, and then I said, well, I'm going to take a sabbatical. I'm going to take some time off and come back, and we got married, and I never went back.
Nobody ever went back.
But I did finish my master's in a different
right
discipline, but it was.
And so we ended up back in the Valley, and Luis applied for jobs. You know how that goes. We're going to go to Corpus. We're going to live in Dallas. We're going to live. So he applied, and as always, God has had a plan for us, and he got a job in Harlingen. So that's how we ended up married and here in town, and in the house we're in now. We've been in since almost the end of our close to our first anniversary is where we are now. And we've had a great run. I mean, we really, really have. And I just hope that we can continue. Maybe we'll have a 50-year anniversary, and we never know where we're going to end up, because we've been around Texas, and Houston was like the last thing on our mind. So
yeah. So when I was working for the state, well, I started in a private nonprofit, then went to go work for the state. And then eventually, I think I was at a governor's retreat or I don't know what. And then it was ready to transition to something new. And then he sent me this, she called me and she says, hey, there's this job with the feds. It's a probation officer. And she said, you want to cut it out? You want me to cut it out or what? I said, sure.
Literally like a little piece of paper this big. And he thought, oh, that's never going to happen.
And so when I applied, there was 150 people that applied for one job. And I said, well, I'm not going to get it. Well, so I went in, got it. And then we started in the feds for 22 years.
Right. And knowing that he was wanting to move into management, always being prayerful people, thinking, okay, so we're not in charge. We just think that we're in control. But God's always had a plan, Pastor, like always had a plan. And there's a song that I think you were talking about, one preaching a few months ago. You were talking about decisions, and did I take the right road, and should I have taken a left instead of a right? And you were talking about a song, and I thought there was a song on today, and I said, I don't know if that's the song Josh was talking about, but it talks about God always knew, and he always was there, and he's been good always. But
Always
we
been
don't
faithful.
always see it, especially when you're in transition like we had been.
So, and before any job change or anything, we always sit and pray and say, if this is going to be good for us, for the relationship, for the family, then open the door. And if not, close it. And we're okay. I mean, the carnal part of you, if you don't get it, you're obviously disappointed and you're just like, but it always has worked out. I think once I moved up and once the position in Houston came open, we had talked way before. I said, the next position's not going to be local. It's going to be in Houston because the senior deputy there is going to be retiring soon. And we need to be on the same page. And so we prayed and just things just fell into place, not because of anything we did, but I know it was on God's timing and
Right.
God's
Right.
movement. And even then, because it was okay because I was gone for 3 days and then I was back for 4 days. And I told her, I said, eventually this is going to be, I'm
You're
going to be
have
there
to
5
retire.
days.
And I didn't think it was going to happen. Like he was never going to really move to Houston. It was just going to be this fun thing for 2 years.
Yeah.
So finally, we ended up in Houston in 2012. He was there 2010. And as always, the goal is to find a church. And so when we were coming as a family, because we have no children, it's just all our cats and our dog. We said we need to find a church and a house. And so God found both. And I remember when we first went to Vineyard, we were going to test 2 or 3 churches out. And Pastor Michael, came in and introduced himself. And I, at the end, and I was like, well, we don't know if we're going to be here. We're trying, this is our first church to try. And he just laughed and said, okay. And so needless to say, we never tried any other church because that was it.
Well,
Vineyard was our connection.
We were home. And
Yeah.
And really what, I think I've shared the story with you and Danya, but we had looked at a bunch of different houses and everything was like, no, I'm sorry, it's already been sold. I'm sorry, no, it's already been rented. And I finally, I'm talking to Denise and she goes, well, why don't you go look to see where the certain judge that lives in that area, why don't you go look there? Because it can't be that bad if she's living there. And of course, I never wanted her to know where I lived because she would be over there all the time. But I went, found her house, and then I was looking around, and I was really, really frustrated. I finally was driving down the street, which we ended up living on. And I said, okay, you brought me here. You said that you were going to provide for me. I felt like David, talking to God and saying, no. And I said, you're going to have to find the place because I'm done. I'm not going to look anymore. And you have to find it. I drove down going towards Studewood. And in the next block, there was an elderly couple putting up a sign to a house that was for rent. And I rolled down my window and I said, can I see the house? I said, no, we're tired. We just want to go home. But if you're really interested, call me and tomorrow and we'll do it. And that's the house that we ended up staying in.
Yeah. Come to find out, that house on West Cottage is literally 2 blocks from Vineyard Church, like walking distance from Vineyard. Like those things don't just happen.
And no, walk to church.
No, we didn't walk to church, but those don't just happen, Pastor. They just don't happen.
And Denise, this whole time, so Luis, like you start in federal parole, but then you sort of make your way up, and you retired last year, and you were sort of overseeing. You weren't just like a parole officer; you were overseeing. Can you give us a little bit of a scope of what you were overseeing?
Sure.
His title was.
When I retired, I was the Chief United States Probation Officer for the Southern District of Texas, and that we cover from Houston down to Laredo, down to the Rio Grande Valley, approximately 43,000 square miles. So the Southern District of Texas produces the most work in the nation. We have the highest number of employees in the nation, and I want to say even the most judges in our area. And a lot of it has to do with the immigration, the drugs, and all that kind of stuff. But we also had major cases like Enron,
Right.
some of those major fraud cases, and all of that would be headquartered out of Houston. And that's why, I was even told, don't you want to move the position when I was applying? Don't you want to move your position down to the Valley? And it was a loaded question, because when you go in, you're interviewing before 23, 25 federal judges. And of course, they're all looking at you like, just
Sure.
make the wrong move.
Sure.
Please, just give us a reason.
So he was doing his thing, and I
Yeah,
have
and you started teaching, and then you sort of had like
Yeah,
this whole trajectory of a career as well.
yeah. So I like to say that I'm a 3 to 5er. I think it's just because I am so wired, and I'm just wired that way. But yes, I started my my career in Corpus, stayed there, worked on my master's there in guidance and counseling, and I taught children with special needs for about 5 years. When we moved back to the Valley, I worked here in the school district in Harlingen, and went back to school and got my other master's degree in administration, educational administration. So after teaching for 5 years, I was blessed enough to get into a counseling position, also with special needs kids. So I did that for about 10 years in 2 different school districts locally, elementary, middle school, and high school. I did the whole gamut in those 10 years. And then I was crazy enough to go into administration on a campus. And my last job before my final job was at a 5A high school as an assistant principal, about 5 minutes from our house. So everybody knows who you are. Everybody knows who Ms. Lopez is. Everybody knows where your house is. And I was the big time disciplinarian of the 6 of us, I would say.
They would refer people to.
I was in charge of security guards. I was in charge of all of that kind of stuff. And so you do a lot. The counseling degree, we've always said, helps you in any position you've ever had. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Doesn't matter what you've done, just that background and that knowledge and how to get people to help themselves. Not so much how to help people, but how to get people to help themselves, has always been like the best part of that I can think of that I could have done in education. From there, my final career jump was to as a director for human resources at the main building with Harlingen ISD. That was probably my favorite job, even though Luis says, but you always were complaining, because it entailed a lot of investigations and just really difficult decision making, because you're dealing with people's lives and you're dealing with children's lives. You're dealing with stuff that now we don't have to deal with it because they're not on campus, but really heavy duty stuff. So when he said, I'm tired of driving to Houston and catching the red eye, and he knew everybody on the flight because he would come home every weekend. Yeah. And I would stay there for a couple of, just stay. I don't think he ever stayed one weekend in Houston by himself until we moved over
I would leave work around 4, between 3 and 4. And then make it back here by 9.
By 9 or 10.
9 or 10.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Then I wouldn't leave because I didn't want to leave on Sunday. I will get up at 2 o'clock in the morning and then drive back to Houston, get to work, and then work till 5:30 or 6.
Yeah. Until he said, I can't do this anymore. So I retired.
So you retired. What I love about your story, and I think this is why I'm so excited about what you guys bring as far as not only sort of your history and your perspectives and your experiences, but to the pastoral council, but you guys love the church. I mean, that's been a part of your lives forever. I mean, even when we were talking about you guys, we were so sad we're thankful for you guys and glad you got to retire, but moving away was sort of like don't move.
It was very hard.
That was probably
that's the hardest move, really, because I always thought coming home would be it, but it felt like I left home. And so that I'm not going to cry on video camera, but that was probably really tough. The toughest thing I can think of, because you're torn, because Vineyard is our family, and I felt very connected to you guys and the children, and Pastor Donna as well, and Michael. It was really difficult to to start again and then come back here and find that we needed to find another kind of vineyard place to connect to because we weren't there left. So that has been really hard, and we have continued to stay connected. We try real hard to watch online. If not, we watch later. And I feel like I'm cheating in church because they're, but doing Facebook right now because they're all posting stuff. So right now I can get away with it. But we feel like we found a really great church here to also connect and plant into. And like I said, when we left Vineyard, we will always be sowing into Vineyard because it owed so much into us that we will, continue that.
And we know that by sowing there, it's fertile ground.
Fertile
we know
ground.
that good things are going to come there because they supported us for 10 years. We know that you guys are moving forward and that you're doing great things. And we want to continue to plant there.
Yeah, and we will. We will.
Well, listen, I can't emphasize this enough. You guys are an example. You are amazing. We love you guys. We're thrilled that you're going to be a part of the pastoral council in this whole brand new position of,
cool.
which is amazing.
We're excited. We're like telling people everywhere, this is what we're going to do. We don't know what all of it's going to entail, but it's going to be so fun. And now we have something to do. Like we're just going to pop in on Sunday one day because we found a doggy daycare that's wonderful for Joshua Blue. And so we feel good about that. So now we can just say, we might be registering one day to go, how you give that little announcement on, this is just your friend on Friday. We just may do that here pretty soon.
Well, good. We listen, I'm really grateful, and we're excited about what your involvement will bring and the life it'll bring to us, and the insight that your life, your experience, your relationship with God, and your love for His church will mean for us as a pastoral council and as a church as a whole. And thank you. You guys are amazing. It's always good to spend time with you, and I'm glad that other people will get to know you a little bit better than they might have when you were there.
Too with the two folks that visit. We had so many, and they're like, I don't know why we didn't get to know you more faster. And I'm like, that's because we were only there like the last year, and then Pastor and Danya got here, and we're like, I can't believe we have to leave now. So we had a lot of fun meeting them too.
Yeah, I think it was it Brent and Rachel. So Brent Spraggins and Rachel Tan.
And Brent was talking about his dad and his cows.
And we bonded. Hilarious. We bonded with them. So we're really excited. We're honored to be of service. That's just what we want to do. And so whatever we can do to help, we're here.
Awesome. Hey, thank you guys. God bless you. And by the way, when we're recording, this is Luis's birthday. So again, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thank you. We love you guys.
All right. Love you guys. Bye.